Success. What is success? Why should we be successful? In my opinion, success is being who you are. And I think that's probably the hardest thing that there is to do. You have to be who you are. You'll never be happy otherwise. And that's what success is. For one person, success is being a mountain climber. For someone else, it's having a family and taking care of the kids. For somebody else, success is making a great deal of money. For someone else, success is succeeding in athletics, being Michael Jordan, being the greatest athlete, #1. I think, though, the key to success is knowing who you are. Because if you become successful in a way that's not appropriate to yourself, then you'll never be happy. And we see that all the time. There are people who are allegedly successful. They are at the top of their field, they make a lot of money, maybe they're famous, whatever. And these people aren't very happy. Well, then are they successful? If you're not happy, I don't see how you could say that you're very successful. I think the reason that someone isn't happy when they're successful is that they don't know who they are. And if you don't know who you are, it's pretty hard to do what you should do. So the secret to success is knowing who you are, getting a sense of what really matters to you, and not being on the program that everyone else is necessarily on that they call success. Success is highly individual. Success means finding your deeper part, the center of your being, and allowing that part to express itself in whatever way it wants to. And you may march to the tune of a different drummer. You may have a very different idea of what success is than someone else does. And I think that's fine. I think that you can tell when you're successful because you're happy. Adversity doesn't mean you're not successful. You can be trying to do something and it just doesn't come out right. Let me tell you a story. I have a number of different businesses that are, I guess, successful. Well, they weren't always successful. There was a time when they didn't even exist. They became successful. So one of the businesses I'm in is the music business. I produce music albums. I've produced 14 albums, music for television shows, logos. If it's music, I love it, and I love to write it and produce it. Now, when I produced my very, very first album, which today I suppose is almost embarrassing to listen to, I still like it, I had no idea where I was going. For example, I've just scored a sitcom for a network television show. I guess this is, in music, it's one of the most successful things you can do. But when I started out doing my first album, I never thought that I would one day be a very successful producer in Hollywood. And it really didn't matter. I mean, I didn't get involved with music to become a successful Hollywood producer. I became involved with music because I loved it, because it turned me on. It made me excited. The same reason I'm in the software business. I'm in the software business. I design software. I have 2 software companies. One company designs artificial intelligence systems and business systems. Another does educational software. I design educational software and games. The reason I do these things is because they fascinate me. And when you do what fascinates you, you find that it's fun. Work becomes play. I hear so often people say, I hate my job. I hate my life. I hate everything. Hate, hate, hate. And I think the reason people feel that way is because they don't know who they are. That is to say, if you pick a career, an activity, that really isn't in line with who you are, then I don't think you'll ever be happy no matter how successful you become. You may become the top dog in your profession. I mean, your name is known above all others. But if you don't know who you are, you may have picked a profession that isn't right for you. And you'll be doing it, you'll be successful, you'll have all the outer signs of success, everyone's patting you on the back, everybody wants to know you, wants your autograph, but you're not happy. This happens all the time. There are CEOs, film stars, writers, athletes. There are a lot of people who don't know that they're doing the wrong thing. That is to say that they are not following what they should be following to be successful, or that it changes sometimes. Now, Michael Jordan, just left basketball. He just retired. It was in all the newspapers. And I think Michael Jordan is a great example of success. I mean, this is perhaps one of the most successful athletes to have ever lived. And he just did a very unusual and I think a very courageous thing. He just said, I'm leaving basketball. I am going to go do something else in my life. I'm not even quite sure what it is. And I think this is why Michael Jordan became a success story to begin with. I think Michael Jordan and every great success, meaning a person who was not only successful in terms of the eyes of others, but in their own eyes, meaning it gave them happiness to be successful. I think every person who's ever been a great success became a great success because they found out who they were before they went and did what they did. And now Michael Jordan is saying, hey, I've played a lot of basketball. I could probably maybe even play better ball than I've ever played, but it's not exciting me anymore. Meaning Michael Jordan is changing and evolving and developing as a human being. And today he wants to do something he's never done before. And he's paying attention to that inner voice that's speaking to him. And he's throwing away what most people would say is a great career, endorsements, everything that everybody should want, success, success, success. He's saying, no, this isn't working for anymore. And you know what? I bet Michael Jordan is going to be successful in whatever he does next. Because the key to success is knowing who you are and trusting and believing in your dream. You have to have a dream. If you don't have a dream, I don't really think you're alive. There's no such thing as a correct dream. The right dream is the dream that's true. And that dream can change. I had a dream once. I sound like Martin Luther King. I had a dream. My dream was to become a university professor. I was excited. I wanted to teach kids on a college level Shakespeare, poetry, English. So I went to college for years. I got a master's degree. I got a PhD. And I did very well in school, academic scholarships, fellowships, awards, Phi Beta Kappa, because I really didn't care about money. I mean, you don't become a college professor for the money. I wanted to teach teenagers and people in their early 20s how fascinating literature was. Well, the funniest thing happened on the way to my teaching career. I did all that. I got my PhD. I did a little bit of teaching, and suddenly I changed. I evolved as a human being, and suddenly I realized that I didn't want to do that anymore. Suddenly I wanted to become an author, a writer. Just a part of me, a new dream came up. Now, most people at that point would say, wait a minute, here I have devoted, 12 years of my life to college, to university. I now have a career, and I'm going to just drop that and walk away from that and go do something that I've never done before. Most people wouldn't do that, and that's why most people aren't happy. Because they don't realize who they are perhaps to begin with, and when they change, they don't accept that. In other words, what makes you excited is what will cause success in your life. And that's what knowing who you are is really all about. When you discover who you are, when you're brave and courageous enough to look at yourself and say, wait a minute, this is what I want to do, and you follow through, and you try it with everything that you have and everything that you are, when you follow your heart, then I think you will be successful at whatever you do. Not necessarily right away. When I started out in the music business, our first album didn't sell. When I left being a college teacher and I wrote my first book, it didn't sell. I was not an overnight success. As a matter of fact, I submitted 6 or 7 manuscripts that I wrote before I sold my first book. And then when I sold my first book, well, it went through 14 printings, I was on 150 television shows, I was very successful. But the whole time I was writing those early books before I sold Lifetimes, True Accounts of Reincarnation, I liked what I did. I would sit at home captivated by that typewriter. I would just type hour after hour. I was happy. That's what success is. Success is not getting to a certain point in life. Because once we get there, we're there. Now what do we do? Success is having a dream and following that dream and believing in that dream in spite of all obstacles. Success is also being hip enough to know that the dream is no longer working, that it's time to shift dreams, that what we were doing before was great, but suddenly we evolved, we changed, and to drop whatever we were doing and move to something else. What good is it going to do you to stay in the profession you're in today if it doesn't make you happy? Well, I guess there's security, but I don't see that unhappiness is worth it. Everyone hates their job, it seems, except the lucky ones. They're not lucky. They're people who followed their dream, and when their dream changed, they went with the new dream. So I was a writer for a while, and I was a successful author. That was fun. Then you know what? I didn't write a book for 10 years. Suddenly I had a new dream. I wanted to teach people how to meditate, and I did that for years, and I was very successful at that. I had meditation studios in Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego. I had thousands of students, and I was very successful at that, and I loved it. I still do that, as a matter of fact. Then I became involved with music, and now I'm very successful in that business. I became involved with software. Success comes from being excited. And if you're not excited about something, you're out of touch with yourself. You don't know who you are. So what I would suggest, if you would like to become successful, I'll tell you some secrets of success in a few moments. Obviously, I know a couple. But I think if you really want to be successful, you have to start by learning about who you are. You have to come to grips with the fact that while your parents may say this is what you should do, you may have a different idea. It's good to listen to everybody because we get new ideas from listening. But sometimes you have to believe in your feelings. And it's better to try something, I think, and strike out if it's what you wanted, than to go be successful at something that you really didn't want to do. Because even when you're striking out, you know, you're not striking out, you're hitting a home run. Because you're trusting yourself, you're following your dream. You need to have a dream. The day you lose your dream is the day you die. I don't care how many years you're alive, walking around on the earth. I don't care how well you dress, how many cars you have, how much money you have in the bank. If you don't have a dream, you don't have a life. And your dream has to be something that inspires you, that causes you to get up in the morning and say, I like my life. It's challenging, it's tough, it's hard, but I like my life. I have a reason to get up in the morning, and it's not just because I can't sleep anymore. There's something I want to go and do. That's what success is. Success is understanding that you have a dream inside you. You have to find it if you don't know it yet, and then you have to let it come out. You have to let it develop and become the fabric of your life. You need a dream, and then you need a way to fulfill that dream. You need a practical way to go about making that dream real. Henry David Thoreau said, build your castles in the sky, but make sure you put a foundation underneath them. A dream is a good first step, and finding out that it's your dream is very important. But how do you translate the dream into the reality? How can you take a dream? I want to be a movie star. I want to be a great athlete. I want to be a race car driver. I want to be the best mother that's ever been and bring up my kids better than anybody. How do you take that dream and make it real? Well, in just a moment, I'm going to give you some insights and ideas about how the dream becomes reality. The dream becomes our life. Be back in just a minute. How do you make a dream real? How do you take the dream of your life and turn it into reality? I think there's a few steps involved in the process. First, there has to be some possibility. Now, if your dream is to be the greatest athlete, the greatest runner, and you know that that's not simply possible for you. You know, I mean, there are times in life when we can't do something we'd like to do. And if we can't just feel, well, let me give you an example. I'm a runner. I like to run. I love running. And I run almost every day. I've been running since I was a teenager. I'd like to run very, very long distances, but once in a while I have knee problems. Nothing extraordinary, but it prevents me from running the ultramarathon. So I can still run every day and enjoy my run. And in my mind, the distance I do, the time I do it in, is my ultramarathon. I've been able to adjust the reality of my physical body to my dream. So my dream is still to run very well, and I do. Sometimes you have a dream, though, that isn't like that. Sometimes you have a dream that is not practical. That is to say, that no matter how we try, no matter what we do, we're not going to accomplish it. And then I think sometimes we can switch dreams. So in order to make a dream real, we have to have a dream that's within the possible scope of our life, either by adjusting within ourselves to this is what I can really achieve, and maybe more than I know, or we find a new dream. I think that's an essential concept in our conversation to start out with. It's kind of a baseline. We're talking about a dream that can happen. That's the best kind. Once you have a dream that can happen, you have to do two things, really. The first thing you have to do is you have to take that dream and bring it into your mind. In other words, it has to become something that you live for, that you believe in completely, that excites you. The second thing I think you have to do is you need to use your biological imperative for success, and we'll get to that in a moment. I think when you combine these two factors, your dream can very easily become real. The first factor to consider is the mind. The mind is the most powerful thing. It is what we are, and the mind and the body are, at least in my view, are not necessarily separate entities at all. We are one mind and one body. To bring a dream into your mind is something that I don't think most people understand. It requires the removal of distractions. Let's say you have a dream. You want to be a success in a certain business. You want to be a baseball star. You want to be a great dancer. Now, if you're always around other people and you're always listening to their dreams and you're always deferring to their dreams, your dream probably won't happen. So I think it's necessary to bring a dream into our mind to have a certain amount of solitude. If we're always around people, if we're always watching everyone else, we learn from that, of course. But solitude is really essential for success. Most people who are very, very successful spend time by themselves. And that time is not necessarily days, weeks, or months off in the mountains. It might be a half an hour a day. They go out and run by themselves. They exercise. Perhaps they just take a walk. Perhaps they read a book. But you need to find a quiet time in which you separate yourself from everything else in life. You're not plugged in to the television. You're not listening to the radio. You're just unhooking. Because if you don't unhook from everyone else in the world, from everyone else's opinions, ideas, and belief systems, how do you know what ideas are you? How do you know which is your dream? So I think it's very important to have a still time every day. In other words, to take time for yourself. It may seem selfish, but I don't know. I don't think it is at all. I don't think you can make other people happy and do a good job for them if you're not happy yourself and if you don't take care of yourself. I mean, you can be a great doctor, you can have a wonderful medical skill, but if you burn yourself out, after a while you won't be able to help anybody and you'll be sick yourself. So I think it's necessary to take a period of time each day, kind of a creative playtime, if you will, where you are going to be just with yourself. And during that period of time, you're going to think about your dream. It's kind of a meditative period, I suppose. You could be active physically, as I said. You could be working out, you could be walking, you could be sitting. But it's a period of time each day when you are going to review what your goal is. You're going to think about every day what your dream is. Review it and renew it. If you sit down, take a walk, and just review, this is my dream. My dream is to be a great dancer. And you think about it, you imagine it. You imagine yourself being that dancer, doing those steps. You want to be Madonna, the material girl. How are you going to become that? How are you going to be a star like that? Well, it's not going to happen unless you isolate yourself to a certain extent from the rest of the world. That is to say, you have to have a period of time where you just review the dream in your mind. You imagine it happening. You set your mind in motion, and you remember what the dream is. You can forget. You can forget your dream and get lost in the dreams of others. So the first thing you need to do is have a very, very quiet period of time where you center on yourself. You remember your dream, and you imagine it happening. You believe in it again. You get excited. You get renewed by it. The second part, of course, I think is natural. It's the biological imperative. But again, this may surprise you. I think success is natural. It's my belief that it is more natural to succeed than to fail. I believe that happiness and success are natural conditions, and that unhappiness and failure are not natural. Now, you wouldn't think that if we were going by statistics. Statistically, there are more people, of course, who aren't successful and who aren't happy. But I believe that it's in our DNA, in our very life essence, to succeed. The strongest drive within us is to survive, and to survive well. Freud said sex was the strongest drive, and it is strong, reproduction. But I think the strongest is to live and to enjoy life, to breathe the air, to feel the moments of life and experience them fully. I think that's the strongest drive. It's not something that's conscious. And I think success is part of that. I think succeeding is something that we have to do. And the sooner we realize that, the better. I don't think it's something that happens to people who are lucky. I think success happens to people who are in touch with themselves and the internal rhythms of their mind and body. Those rhythms want us to be happy, want us to be successful. So when you start to realize that success is something normal and natural, and that the lack of success implies a kind of a psychological blockage, I think you'll find that it's very easy to succeed. Imagine that there are two rivers. One river flows very quickly. It's a very beautiful river. Then there's a second river that is very still. It's almost kind of stagnant. And they're both inside you. All you have to do is get into the river that flows beautifully, and it'll take you on a great adventure like Huckleberry Finn going down the Mississippi, having all kinds of adventures. The other river is stagnant. The views aren't very good. I don't think you'll like it at all. Well, success is a river that's within us. That is to say, the ability to materialize a dream, to be happy, to achieve. And that's part of us. It's inside of us. Just as there's another part that doesn't want to get up in the morning, it's lazy, it wants to complain, it wants to blame everything else for everyone else and everything else for things that don't go well. We have two sides to our being. And I think that wisdom means understanding that both are natural, both are normal. But wisdom is what, in accepting these two divergent streams in our life, that we have a part of us that could be self-destructive, a part of us that could not succeed and be unhappy, and a part of ourselves that can be very successful and happy. Wisdom is the ability to know that we have these two different sides and to choose success, to allow ourselves to flow into that river and to avoid the company of people who don't feel that way, to avoid associating and being friends with people who just are in that other stream. Now, that may sound cold and heartless to you, but I don't think so. I think if you want to be successful, you have to be around other people who have the same desire. And if you surround yourself with people who are overly negative about themselves or about yourself, it influences your success probability. It just sort of pulls you into that other part of yourself. If you hang around people who do drugs, you'll probably end up doing drugs. If you hang around people who drink all the time, you'll probably end up drinking all the time. On the other hand, if you hang around people who are successful, if you spend time with people who are motivated, who are happy, who are doing something with their lives, you get pulled in that direction too. I mean, the very fact that you're watching a video right now about success tells you that that's something that you desire. That's something that you want for yourself. You know, or are to some extent in touch with that river inside of yourself that seeks success, that it's natural, it's wonderful. So you must find other things in your life and people, whether it's books that inspire you, movies. You know, sometimes I watch videos myself. I don't just make them. And sometimes I take a video that I find very inspiring. I find Rambo 3, it might be too violent for you, but I'm very inspired by that. You know, the ultimate warrior, played by Sylvester Stallone, who goes in and saves the oppressed people. And if I'm having a really tough day and everything's going wrong, I had a bad day at the studio, bad day at the office, whatever, I go home and I put on Rambo 3. It pumps me up. There's something about it that excites me because I see someone who has to fight through incredible obstacles, difficulties and pain, who succeeds in doing that. And that reminds me that that's part of the human spirit, that that's normal, that that's natural, that that's healthy. So I think we turn to the arts for support in success. We read about people who are successful, and it inspires us. We focus on success. What you focus on, you become. So I think we need to support ourselves with a successful environment. And then that success has to turn into action. You can read about people who are successful, of course. You can think about them and never be successful yourself. So I think if you take a quiet period of time and review your dream, find your dream to begin with, but find a quiet period of time every day where you just imagine what it is that you'd like to do. Believe in it, in other words. Believe in yourself. And then if you choose to surround yourself with things that reinforce that dream, well, then you'll be successful. I'd like to tell you a story. I have a student. I have a lot of students, actually. But I have a particular student. And he told me a story about his life. He grew up in a ghetto, a real bad neighborhood. And every moment in his life was pain. His parents were always screaming and fighting. Okay, sometimes his father would beat up his mother. They did a lot of drugs, a lot of drinking in the house. There's street crime all around him. He just never felt good about anything, except one thing. He loved to run, and he had a pair of running shoes. And what he did was when he would sit in class, or he'd be in that home where they were screaming and fighting, and he was in his room, and he just didn't know what to do, he would think about running. He would think about tomorrow when he was going to get out on the track at school, and just those moments when he would just cut loose, he would just fly. And that got him through those periods of time. And also, of course, he became a very great runner. So I think what a dream does is it gets you through difficult times. In other words, not only do we actualize the dream by surrounding ourselves with positive energies, positive images, but the purpose of a dream, I think, is that it offsets the pain of life. When you believe in yourself, when you believe in your dream, when you focus on it, it makes you strong, it makes you powerful, it inspires you. Sometimes the best moments in your life are very private and very quiet. They're moments when the imagination takes flight. And without those moments, there would be no creation, there would be no success, there would be no happiness. They're moments when we allow ourselves to use our imagination to dream, to believe in what we could be, in what we could do, and what we could achieve. Some people say, hey, you're a dreamer, you're wasting your time. You know, every person who's been successful and who continues to be successful is a dreamer. They have a dream, and then they remove negative elements from their life that would prevent that dream from happening, and they allow themselves the time to live that dream every day. But what's great about having a dream, and I think this is part of success too, is that when you believe in your dream, when you think about it, when it becomes your life, it takes you above the pain of existence. It takes you above the difficult times, which are just part of life. I mean, life is competitive, life is aggressive, and it's not particularly fair. And I think that the way that you achieve happiness is not by just getting your dream to become a reality, but it's just by thinking about it, believing in it, enjoying it. Success is not getting someplace. Success is the process of getting someplace. And whether it's in the dreaming stage, in the starting to make it happen, dealing with the initial failures, everybody telling you you can't do it, it's not going to work out, but something in you just overpowers that. When success comes, handling that, suddenly everybody's your friend who didn't want to know you before. Everybody wants you to go out and party with them. Well, if you do that, then you'll lose your success. There are a lot of stages to it. You'll find them out as you go along the pathway to success. But real success is believing in yourself, believing in spite of what anyone else says that you deserve to be successful, that success is healthy, normal, and natural. taking time to care about that dream and letting no one destroy it for you. And if it gets a little bruised and bumped up, which it will, just go be by yourself. Take a little time for yourself each day to imagine what you want to be. What would you like your life to be? And then take that imagination and put it into action. Be inspired by that time, and then go do it. Find out how it's done. Study the lives of people who have succeeded at what you're trying to do. Apprentice to them. Learn from them. And if your dream changes, be brave enough to admit it. If it's not making you happy anymore, if you're sitting down at the typewriter and you've written 10 great books, and you're writing the 11th and you're looking for that feeling again and it's not there, maybe it's time to do something else. Maybe it's time to find success in another way. Maybe you've evolved as a person, and now success is drawing you to a new dream. And have the courage to change, to follow your dreams. And I think then you'll not only be a dreamer of dreams, but your life will become a dream, and that dream is your personal success, your personal happiness. To me, that's what success is really about. It's being who you are, and in spite of all opposition, allowing yourself to be that and express your true nature in your day-to-day activities. Thank you.